Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Everyone.
Hare
Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Everyone, loud, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, verse 27, and the chapter is entitled The Birth of Emperor Parikshit. The class will be given by His Grace Parikshit Prabhu from ISKCON Harrisburg. Without further delay, we will start into the class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Vivadadari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Vivadadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Sharadhyari Radha Sharadhyari Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinatha Shri Radhe Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Guranitai Jaya Guranitai Jaya Guranitai Jaya Guranitai Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stotara Satyasi Shrimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stotara Satyasi Shrimada's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikh Host Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivachari Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Krishna Varaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Narayana Namaskritya Naronchevam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Udirayat Nashta Prayeswa Bhatresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhakta Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, devotees. This morning's class is from Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 12, text 27. So I will read the Sanskrit text 3 times, and then anyone who wants to repeat can do so at that time. Rakshakat Atmano Mrityum Dvija Putro Pasajitat Prapatsaya Upashrutya Mukta Sangha Padam Hare Dakshakat Atmano Mrityum Dvija Putro Pasajitat Prapatsata Prapatsyata Upashrutya Mukta Sangha Padam Hare Dakshakat Atmano Mrityum Dvijo Putro Pasarjitat Prapatsyata Upashrutya Mukta Sangha Padam Hare. Hare Krishna.
Dakshakat atmano mrityum dvija putro pasarchitat prapat satya upashrutya mukta sangha padam hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
तक्षक्षादात्मनो मृत्युं द्विजपुत्रो परसृजितात् प्रपतत्स्त्य उपश्रुत्यः मुक्तसङ्गः पदं हरेः.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so we'll do word for word now. Dakshakat, by the snake bird. Atmana, of his personal self. Mrityum, death. Dvijaputra, the son of a Brahmana. Upasajitat, being sent by. Prapatsyate, having taken shelter of. Upashrutya, after hearing. Mukta Sangha, freed from all attachment. Padam, position. Hare, of the Lord. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. Material attachment means ignorance of transcendental happiness under the shelter of the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord while existing in the material world is a way to practice one's transcendental relation with the Lord. And when it is matured, one gets completely free from all material attachment and becomes competent to go back home, back to Godhead. Maharaj Pariksit, being especially attached to the Lord from the beginning of his body in the womb of his mother, was continuously under the shelter of the Lord, and the so-called warning of his death within 7 days from the date of the curse by the Brahmana's son was a boon to him to enable him to prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. Since he was always protected by the Lord, he could have avoided the effect of such a curse by the grace of the Lord, but he did not take such undue advantage for nothing. Rather, he made the best use of a bad bargain. For 7 days continuously, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source, and thus he got shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord by that opportunity. Hare Krishna. Oma Ginanti Ramya, Oma Ginanti Mirandasya, Gyana Gina Shalakaya, Chakshu Umilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Vita Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Shah. Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajiva. Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva. Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Shah. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhescha Kripa Sunive Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Sitarani. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurati Se Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himagiri Vacha Vishnaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. The English translation of the verse is, after hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. Hare Krishna. So this is still the Brahmanas, the sages, talking about Maharaj Parikshit's life. This time we're talking about how his life will end. Everybody in a material body has to end this material body or the use of this material body with death. That gives one of two choices based on how a person has led their lives. They will not take another body again, which is what we're aspiring for. The soul comes out, the subtle body is also the subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, and ego at the material level, get discarded. Krishna discards those when he gives the mercy for that particular soul to return to the spiritual sky and live there perpetually. Or, Dehino asmin yata dehe komayuvaram jara. The soul goes through birth, so in a baby's body, then in the teenager's body later, and then in an adult's body, in the old person's body. Tata dehantara prapti. And similarly, when that body is no longer of use, the old body, then it goes into the next body. The next body is there. Now, the next body means that the person is still going to stay in the material world with a new life to begin and live it, and a new life of part distress and part enjoyment, material happiness. So to break that cycle of anxiety, we do Krishna consciousness activities and chant the holy name so that Krishna will have mercy on us and get us excited in Krishna consciousness, enthused about Krishna consciousness, so that we'll get an opportunity to go back to Godhead and stop taking material bodies. None of the 8,400,000 types of bodies will be of use to us at that time, because they will be freed from the material world, which is in fact a house of correction, a world of correction of one's misdeeds. So in Maharaj Parikshit's situation, he's a pure devotee of the Lord. So he's come to elevate the consciousness of people according to Krishna's plan. The Pandavas did that. They were supporting their brother. The four brothers were supporting their first brother, the oldest brother, Maharaj Yudhishthira, to rule. And Maharaj Yudhishthira was concerned about what would happen after him. He knew that his grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, was now saved by the Lord, and he was growing and going to grow into a person, but he wanted to find out what would happen. And so after the ones that were telling him about Maharaj Parikshit's future told so many wonderful things about him, then they also told him about how his death will happen. In these days, those who talk about astrology, even those who are very good at it, normally don't like to bring up the question of death to others because they know that death is kind of difficult. But Maharaj Yudhishthira knows that he himself was going to leave the material world, that everybody leaves the material world. Dhira statana muhyati. A sober person, dhira is a sober person. A sober person is not bewildered by the fact that the person leaves one body and goes to another body, and is not bewildered by the fact that that process of leaving a body is what's called death. So when the sages were describing how Maharaj Parikshit was going to leave a body, Maharaj Yudhishthira was not surprised by it, but he was definitely, we can even speculate that he would be encouraged by what Maharaj Parikshit would do in the future, that he would get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead. Take shelter of him. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that Maharaj Parikshit was attached to the Lord from the beginning of his body. As a matter of fact, he saw the Lord in the womb of his mother. The Lord came to save him from the devastating effect of the Brahmastra that was thrown by Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya. This is all part of Mahabharata. So Maharaj Parikshit had already seen the Lord, and his name, Parikshit, means examiner. When he came out of the womb, he was looking for the Lord. So right at his birth, he was surrounded by auspicious activities because the Pandavas themselves were like that. And Uttara, the mother of Maharaj Parikshit, also took shelter of the Pandavas, was around them, was around Draupadi. So she was around auspiciousness, and Maharaj Parikshit was in the womb, and he also heard about the glories of the Lord. So he came very, 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 very much attached to transcendence. And he would be a good ruler, according to what the sages were saying, but he was going to leave his body first by hearing how much time he had left and how this was going to happen. It will be caused by the bite of a snake, and that snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmana, which means there will be some things, there will be some connection with the son of a Brahmana, and this bite would happen, and that is going to be the cause of his death. And by knowing that ahead of time, he will free himself from all material attachment. He was supposed to be the king, and therefore, in administration purposes, you have to do some things that are material in order to get your citizens in the right course, in the right frame of mind. He had rules, he had administration, he had some things he had to enforce as a king, as an emperor. But when all of that, when the news of his death and what time it would take for him to leave the body and how he's going to leave the body was told to him, at that time, he would stop all of the material things that he's doing. and give his life fully to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. We are very much reminded of the importance of having good relationship with devotees. Good relationship with devotees is important because when the time comes for us to leave the body, and death is a difficult situation, it is the devotees that will remind us of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting his holy name. That is mercy that devotees show to a person leaving the body by being around, by stopping what they're doing to be there to assist in the transition. Because Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita that when one leaves the body thinking about him, without a doubt, he goes to him. And so devotees try very hard to get the person that is about to leave the body to remember Krishna, even within the pain of all of the stuff, of the things that go on where the body's senses are shutting down. Every sense that shuts down, it means you don't have use of it anymore. And if you don't have use of it anymore, it brings some level of bewilderment. Nobody remembers exactly what they went through in the last life. Some person that can see the future can tell you what happened, but the experience itself is usually forgotten. And so when a person is leaving the body, it's like new again. The experience is going to be new again. But it's a difficult experience, as it's been explained to us. So material attachment would make us think about material things at the time of death. And that would bring us back to the material world to satisfy those things. Now, material world has anxiety. It's a place called Kunta. Vaikunta is without anxiety. Spiritual world has no anxiety. Everything is taken care of, and people are serving the Lord in bliss, in highest happiness. Nothing to worry about. Everything is provided. And the relationship between the souls are wonderful because it's a relationship of love. The atmosphere is very effulgent. This is the spiritual world. Krishna explains that you don't need sun there, you don't need moon there, you don't need electricity there. Electricity obviously provides light too. That's all not there because the effulgence is from the rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Spiritual effulgence, that's there. So it is a very wonderful place to be. And this is our home that we've left. And by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's representative, Srila Prabhupada, and the Parampara for him, this has been opened for us again to go back home. So we should, as Srila Prabhupada says, take advantage of it. And Maharaj Pariksit, after he hears about his death and the cause of it, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and do what? The Lord says to do that. Surrender into the personality of God. Free yourself from all forms of dharma, of religion, and just simply surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he gives shelter. And so Maharaj Pariksit is going to do that. Now, in the purpose, the Prabhupada says material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. The lotus feet of the Lord, when one takes shelter, then one is saying that I'm taking spirituality to be the prime important thing in my life. Taking shelter means that. Taking shelter means understanding that the Lord is supreme. Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. And that he provides everything. And that taking shelter of him, especially when you start with the mind, when you submit the mind to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the senses go along with the service too. Giving to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by serving devotees, by serving Guru, and by serving the deity. This is our life. As long as we take it seriously, Krishna opens the door to sweeten spiritual life. And then we become happier and happier and happier internally. The next things on the outside don't matter much to us. When things on the outside, material things don't matter much to us, what goes to us, what goes out the door is lamentation. We don't lament for things. The only concern is, am I doing my sadhana correctly? Am I taking shelter of the Lord in terms of obeying the orders of the Guru? So, Srila Prabhupada also explains that since material attachment and taking shelter of the Lord go ill together, he defines material attachment. When one is attached materially, then they ignore transcendental happiness. They do not realize that transcendental happiness is there when we take shelter of the Lord. Therefore, they're trying to get material happiness by being attached to material things. But that never gives real satisfaction. So, devotional service to the Lord is wonderful. Srila Prabhupada is explaining here. It is in the spiritual world. That's all they do is devotional service in love. But it's here in the material world by the mercy of Guru and Guranga. It's a way for us to practice the transcendental relation with the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada says, when we have actually been so involved in it that we've reached the stage of maturity where we are convinced totally, we are steady, and we've gotten, by Krishna's mercy, a taste of the sweetness of doing devotional service, and how the soul feels, how the heart feels, and they're getting more, and that person is getting more and more attached to Krishna in love, then material attachment don't become important for that person. And at that point, they're always thinking about Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, and when the time comes, they will go back home, Krishna will accept them, because that's where their minds act. So that was Maharaj Parikshit's life that was going to be according to the way it was being predicted, starting from starting from the womb of his mother. He was Krishna conscious, and he was protected by the Lord. So he could have turned the curse around if he wanted to die in 7 days, but he made use of the 7 days by stopping his administration, handing it over to his first son, Maharaj Janmejai, and then going to the banks of the river Ganges and meditating there, thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, until Shukadeva Goswami, the Shiksha Guru, arrived, and he asked what a person that's about to die should do. And Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to him, beginning from that. So it was a wonderful exchange of questions and answers. So much was explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, which has 18,000 texts. So that was a lot, and it was said in 7 days. Maharaj Parikshit was free to ask any question he wanted to, and Shukadeva Goswami gave all the answers plus more. So the Lord took his spiritual body back to the spiritual world, Maharaj Parikshit, and Maharaj Parikshit gave us a sense of how one should leave this world. Hearing about the Lord and chanting the Lord's name, at least hearing the chanting of the Lord's name. Sometimes it gets to a point where the urge to speak, when the senses are shutting down, you won't be able to speak, but then the last sense to go is a sense of hearing. So we still can hear, and that's why we're talking about it earlier, that it is important to relate well to devotees so that when they hear about the time where things are about to end for the life of a particular soul, and that soul has a good relationship with the devotees, the devotees know that they need to help this person. They will come around, they will chant the holy name, or they will set up some electronic gadget that plays the holy name constantly, so the person can remember and leave the body remembering the holy name. So material attachment gives us trouble. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text 30, there's a part of the purport Sri Prabhupada talks about material attachment. He says, excessive attachment for material things. You put a person in such a bewildering condition of existence when we get too attached to material things. So, all right, so somebody will say, but we have material things. What do you mean attachment for it? We use them. Is that attachment when we use them? When we use them for service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's detachment. You have a particular thing, but you use it to serve the Lord. So one should have the intelligence in the situation of answering the question, how can I use what I have here to serve the Lord? One can acquire material things, but it has to be used to serve the Lord. Some people, even by karma, they become very wealthy. So Srila Prabhupada directs, same the wealth, Rupa Goswami also does. Use the wealth for doing what? Serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Donate to projects that are Krishna conscious. Then the wealth doesn't become a burden on you. You can save some for emergencies, but the rest should be, of course, and then the others for upkeep, you, family, and so on. But the rest should be for Krishna conscious projects. And the more we do that, the more we're open to serving with what material things that have come in our way, then the Lord opens more opportunities for us to serve even more. Because he knows that it's by service that we develop love. We develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is the same service that increases our love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when we use material things to serve the Lord will give us more opportunity to use more material things to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, explained sometime back in Florida, in Alachua. I remember my godbrother's house that he was there. And he was explaining that some people, some devotees, when they make their minds up to have a very large project and then honestly want to to be involved in a very large project, Krishna conscious project, and they desire some amount of money for it, that if they're really serious about it and they're steady in the way they handle material things, in other words, that the wealth that they use, the amount of money that is needed will not be, Krishna knows it's in the heart, Krishna is Paramatma. He knows that this person will not abuse it in any kind of way, but use it 100%, 100% for serving. Sometimes Krishna will give even more money, more opportunity, greater opportunity than that devotee is even expecting. Sometimes we set a budget, okay, we want to do this, we want to do that, and then we set a budget for it. And Krishna arranges, if he's very happy with the mentality that the person is using to serve, total focus on the service and focus on the, being in a right frame of mind. I am doing this as a servant. You, Krishna, have already said that the results of it is going to be based on you and how just leave the results to you. So this is the mentality which I'm approaching this. And then you serve like that. And then Krishna will make all kinds of things happen. Sometimes way beyond the expectation of the devotee that's even serving. So this is how material things can be used. But when we use material things for ourselves, over and above what is necessary for our upkeep, then we are getting held or bonded, attached to material things, and the material things are the very thing that's going to stop us from going back to Godhead. So excessive attachment for material things puts a man in a bewildering condition of existence. And sometimes a person becomes fearful. They lose their mental equilibrium because they're attached to the things and they are fearful that they might lose it. A person that is serving is not concerned about what they will gain or what they will lose. They are putting themselves in a situation where they're just a servant of the Lord. And this happened also for us to learn. It happened by the Lord's arrangement to Arjun in the battlefield. He thought that he would not be happy even if he was victorious over the Kauravas. He thought that because he saw them at the body level, like his brothers and his guru and his grandfather, and all those were on the other side, and what is there to enjoy by fighting them and killing them or maybe being killed by them. So when a man sees only frustrations in his expectations, he begins to think, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare, and no one is interested in the Supreme Self, and that is the problem. When we turn our attention for satisfying the Supreme Self or the Super Soul or Krishna, turn that to ourselves, our own welfare, and make that the all in all, then the frustration comes. Because you feel it more than you're much in the material pool, and you feel it more. So Arjun was put in that situation, even though he was a pure devotee of the Lord and a friend of Krishna, to show us that this is what happens. And he was put in a very, very critical situation. It's a life or death situation in the war. So Arjun showed ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. Srila Prabhupada explains that our real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. When the soul that is conditioned forgets this, then the material pains give him more suffering. So we have to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the material problems will not be, as Srila Prabhupada translates in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that all these problems, when you take shelter of the Lord, get reduced to the size of this print from the calf, the hoof of a calf. So that's small. Sometimes we think material things give us so many problems, huge problems. We go through headaches and so on. But when we remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead and say, I am yours, I'm only a servant, you handle everything that's supposed to happen, then our hearts, then our minds get relaxed, because that means we are telling our mind, giving instruction to our mind, Krishna is in control. I don't understand what's going on, but I don't have to, because Krishna is in control. So it's material compassion and lamentation, tears for material things, lots of material things. Those are all signs of ignorance of the real self. When we lose things, well, we're going to lose everything in the end when death comes. So temporary loss of things, that's part of life here. As long as we keep serving, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. That's even in the Bible. The Lord giveth, the Lord takes away. And the person that said it also said, blessed be the name of the Lord. The Lord is in control, and he's always in the corner of a person that is totally submitted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 7, Srila Prabhupada explains that the miser, Kripana, he thinks he'll be able to protect his family members from death. but which family member later or sooner or later has not left the body? Or sometimes the miser thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. But family attachment like that, even the lower animals, they also take care of their children like that. So Arjuna had to be taught by Krishna so that his undue affection for his family members would be scaled back, and then he could do his duty. And of course, Krishna also explained at the soul level, we don't die. It's the body that dies. But we don't have the right, unless we are given the right, to take anybody's body. We don't. It's even explained in the Bhagavad Gita that sometimes when we kill souls in the smaller bodies, like ants and so on, if we kill them knowingly, we are held responsible. Because on that soul situation, and this really blew my mind when we were reading chapter 16, text 1 to 3, 1, 2, and 3, which is together. Those three are together. The long purport, the Srila Prabhupada explained that in some cases, that soul will have to take birth in that same physical type body to continue his untimely death, to continue the life. So we have to be careful, understand, like a sage does, that all bodies, physical bodies that we see, whether they are bigger than ours or smaller than ours, all have souls just like we do have souls, and the same quality is there. Therefore, take that into consideration when we're relating to other living entities. We have to also detach from sense gratification. Srila Prabhupada translates in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, Kama Yoga, text 6, the one who restrains his senses of action, but whose mind is still dwelling on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So we start by trying to restrain our senses from sense gratification. But if our thoughts are still connected to sense gratification, then we're not totally gone from it. So that is also something that you have to work on in order to be totally free of the thought of sense gratification. And then, of course, you just can't be a zero just sitting there. You just basically, it's called param dispanivatite, replacing the lower with the higher. You replace the material with the transcendental. Therefore, when we perform more activities that spiritually, then the desire to do material things for ourselves is totally reduced and is removed. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text 7, he says the other one. On the other hand, Srila Prabhupada translates, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses with his mind and begins action in Krishna consciousness without attachment, then that person is by far superior. So here we are. We have to not only restrain the senses, but the sense activities that are connected with materialism, that also has to go. The sense activities have to go. The thoughts of the sense activities also have to go. We had 2 weekends back a program at New Vrindavan, and in one of the lectures there was Prabhu named John Yasenchak, and he gave a lecture, and he talked about addiction. And we know that addiction, if you hear the word addiction, is a person who's helplessly attached to some sort of material activity. And they know, even though in their minds, intelligence is telling them that it's not good for them, they still don't know how to stop it. It's a very unfortunate situation, but many people are caught in that situation. So he explained his own addiction, how it happened, and how he's turned his life around. And then he's actually a counselor, and he meets with a number of people, and they give a website that we can connect to, and then we connect to his website. He's definitely taken the Krishna consciousness. He's not initiated yet, but he's very, very much into it, so much that he gave a lot of very valuable information. And one of the things that I remember him saying is that a person that's addicted, when they stop, by the Lord's mercy and help from devotees, when they stop the addiction, it's been proven that it doesn't mean that the opportunity is totally gone. We have to be very careful. What he explained was that when a person gets away from addiction, the feeling of wanting to go back to addiction is greatly reduced. It's reduced. But if a person puts himself in a situation where that addiction is being practiced by others and they are in it, there's a very high chance that they can go back to it. So he was saying that as a warning, that a person that's addicted, whatever it is that they're addicted to, they have to physically be away from that area also and not put themselves in that situation, because then the temptation is always, that's what he was saying, the temptation is always there. In fact, some of his own addiction, he said it did in fact occur to him again. It happened to him, not occur, but it happened to him where he was in a situation where he could have gone back to his bad habits, but he caught himself. His intelligence immediately kicked in and said, why are you getting ready to do this after all that's happened? And so he was able to get himself away from it. It's true relating to devotees, fixed up devotees, that we are able to stay with the good habits and get away from bad habits. And it is a process. Prabhupada says gradually, when one gets more and more and more excited about Krishna consciousness, serves, maintains the enthusiasm, then Krishna in the Lord in the heart, Paramatma, would slowly but surely get the person less and less and less interested in materialism, including addictions, and then they will live a controlled life. Then we can carry on with our business, even material business, without attachment, and therefore we make progress spiritually like that. So for self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras, and as Guru also explains to do. And then we can carry on our business, material business, without attachment, without any attachment, but be attached to the spiritual activities, and that way make progress. And then the material won't disturb us, and maintaining good relationship with devotees will also cause them to give us their mercy by being around at the time that we're going to leave the material body, the physical body that we have, and have a very good chance of going back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So the text again is that Maharaj Parikshit, after hearing about his death, which would be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmana, he will disconnect from all material attachment and give his soul fully, mind, body, soul, to the personality of Godhead and take shelter of him. This is what we need to do ourselves. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful class, and thank you for actually speaking and sharing the importance of taking shelter of the Lord at the time of death, not knowing when death will fall upon us, and how death is such a negative connotation, negative word. I think last week, I believe, or the week before, someone was mentioning in class, and I forgot whether it was Chandramali Swami or somebody, where people don't like to talk about death because it's such a scary thing. So thank you for bringing up this wonderful pastime of Maharaj Parikshit. Would like to ask devotees if any questions, any comments, and reflection, a takeaway would be really, really nice also, so we can have a nice discussion. Please do please do share. And we also know that, you know, it's the week of World Holy Name. So we really would like to have a nice discussion, you know, and really help each other in how to take shelter of the Lord, which is taking shelter of the holy name. So please do bring up your questions, bring up your thoughts. I have a question that I would like to ask if you could address. And I'm actually glad that you spoke about the snake bird, because I knew it was the snake, but I never heard it called the snake bird. Do you know why it's called a snake bird? I'm just curious. I'm really just, my mind is just going cuckoo.
He came as a bird, and before he could change himself into different bodies. He could change himself in different bodies. That he had that, Takshaka had that ability. So he, at the time when he got close to Maharaj Parikshit, that he was going to buy them, then he showed the snake body type at that time, and then with him. And Maharaj bought Parikshit's body then immediately. He didn't need arrangement for cremation. The body caught fire immediately from fire within, and he left like that. So yeah, it's because he could, Takshaka could change from bird to snake like that. So he didn't come like a snake coming.
Okay.
Even though for the obeisance first. He did, yeah. So it's an interesting pastime.
Very interesting. You know, like I said, you know, I know the snake, but I didn't know that it was also a bird that could change. Like it may have been said to me, but I may have definitely forgotten it. So thank you for really clarifying. I learned something new today. Thank you so much. And it's interesting that you said that it even offered obeisances first. Hare Krishna.
If I remember correctly, yeah,
Wow.
This is what he did. So
Amazing.
nobody was, you know, disturbed about it. And I probably, dear Krishna Prabhu, you can add more to it. That would be wonderful.
Go ahead,
Hare
dear
Krishna
Krishna.
I only
Prabhu,
said,
please accept my humble message, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Wonderful, very nectarian class. If with your permission, not really about the snake bird, but very interesting fact that I mean, I heard a few weeks or maybe few months before first time that Parikshit Maharaj was so pure, especially after hearing the Bhagavatam Katha. There was no way that even a snake or a snake bird like Takshak could touch him. So the fact was that although the curse has to happen, Takshak came, but actually Parikshit Maharaj left the body before that
the snake
bit happened.
Yes,
so very interesting
that's
that, you know, yeah, very interesting. I found it very interesting that, yeah, because sometimes we might think, you know, how come after even hearing Bhagavatam, he got bitten by the snake, but the fact was that he actually left the body before it could bit his body.
The snake, yeah, that part is an important detail. I'm glad you brought it up. The soul left Maharaj Parikshit's physical body before the snake bit him. So
I have a question. Again, my mind, you know, so is this the same snake that the Brahmana's son threw on him, or is it a whole different pastime?
Okay. So what happened, since you asked the question, we'll start with the pastime itself. When Maharaj Parikshit was hungry and thirsty and in the field, in the forest, he came upon this ashram of Shamkrishi, and he wanted Shamkrishi. Shamkrishi was there, the sage was there, the Brahmana was there, but he was in meditation. And when the king asked for help for quenching his thirst, getting some water, Shamkrishi did not respond. Now, when people are in meditation, it does not mean that they don't see what's around them. Their eyes only half closed. Shamkrishi did not respond to that. And so Maharaj Parikshit put a dead snake. He saw a dead snake and put it around the neck, garlanded Shamkrishi with it, and left him, being upset. Now, it's obviously the wrong thing to do, but it's not a serious thing because Shamakrishna's life was not in danger. The snake was already dead. But in that, and so he ignored it too. Shamakrishna ignored it too. But when his son came and saw what had happened, then he got upset. And Shringi got upset, and then he cursed Maharaj Pariksit that in 7 days he will also die from a snake bite because he put a dead snake around his father. So that's what happened. But there is situations, not only in the case of Maharaj Pariksit, other situations where people who were very much connected with spirituality left their bodies just before some sort of violence was caused to the physical body itself. Maharaj Pariksit, yes, is an example that, as Dear Krishna explained. But it's not the first. It doesn't.
So with that pastime, so this part that which I'm glad that Dear Krishna brought it up is, as you mentioned, Dear Krishna, that when Maharaj Pariksit left his body,
the soul left the body.
That the soul, sorry. Yes.
Before.
Right before so
right before.
Amazing. Amazing.
Which means he did not feel the effect of the bite of the snake. He did not.
Very amazing. This is the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dear Krishna, for adding that. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's a nice question here by Colby. Very nice question. He says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, is it still possible for a devotee who may still be struggling with material attachment to go back to Godhead if he or she is thinking of the Lord at the time of death?
What you need to understand is the mercy factor that's there. The Lord is very merciful. And the question may answered into a yes or may answered into a no. It all depends on how much growth that's there. We are all struggling with this life. Even when we're trying to lead a spiritual life, there are still times that we fall back. We lead spiritual life, as my Guru Maharaj explained, like being in the battlefield. A soldier that's in the battlefield is trying to be successful, but they're the enemy, which is Maya, coming at him or her also. So it all depends how much of the spiritual life that we have actually imbibed and living it. A person that may not be totally pure can still go back to Godhead. But it very much depends on the Lord's mercy. It's not a formula that's there. It's all done through the mercy of a spiritual master, pleading the case for the person to go back to Godhead. And Krishna is the final decision maker. So is it possible? Is it still possible for a devotee who may be struggling with material attachment to go back to Godhead? One of the things that's important is that person needs to, when you keep hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing that material attachment is not good for us and they keep us from going back to Godhead, it will, by hearing, it's just like everything that's advertised. After a while, you begin to respond to the advertisement. What's the advertisement is giving. So what the point we're making is there will have to be a slacking of on our part for material attachment before we get the chance to go back to Godhead. The extent, well, it's explained in the Shastra, and the Gurus also explained it, that the effort that we put in to do what we hear transcendentally draws the mercy. The effort draws the mercy. So you said struggling with material attachment, which means a person has material attachment, and they have to give it up. But they need to make the effort to give it up, though. No effort means definitely no go. But when you put in the effort, then the chances are there because the Lord is very kind, and it is possible definitely to go back especially if we're thinking at the time of death, will they go back? If we're thinking of a Lord, and we take this in two stages, struggling with material. If we're thinking about the Lord, so Prabhupada has said, and translated the Krishna has said, that if you're thinking about me, without a doubt, you come to me. So yes, that person will come, they will go back to Godhead. But thinking about the Lord also means that thinking about doing those things that the Lord says to do. And one of them is getting away from material attachment. So if the person puts in that effort, then that will, in fact, the Lord will arrange for that person to be saved and go back to Godhead. It is definitely possible, but it all depends the effort that we put in to get away from material attachment. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for addressing that. That was a very nice question, Colby, I have to say, and a very nice answer given. That was, and I'm sure all of us on this call, in this class, have really benefited from your question and answer. So thanks so much, Colby. And I hope that helped, Colby. I hope. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts? Any clarification? Any takeaways? Please, do share your thoughts. And if there isn't, just a humble reminder that this evening we have Bhagavad, and a very nice point by Dear Krishna. He says, very beautiful point about making efforts. Yes, I like that too, Dear Krishna. It's the effort, when we think about the 2 inches. If I can just share this quickly, that's coming to my mind right now. If we can think of the 2 inches when Mother Yashoda was trying to tie Lord Damodar to the mota, it was always 2 inches short. One was the effort. 1 inch was the effort, and the other one was the mercy. So it's the more effort we put, the mercy reciprocates.
The more mercy, we get.
Yes. So, and that, like he said, when we make efforts, it draws Sri Guru and devotees to us, and they can even be around us during our end time in this life and create Krishna conscious environment around us. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, absolutely. It's the effort and the mercy, how important they go hand in hand, So thank you for that nice point. And thank you to Colby again for a very wonderful question. And thank everybody for joining us. A quick reminder, please do join us this evening for our Bhagavad Gita Circle reading program. We are starting chapter 17. We just finished chapter 16. We're starting chapter 17. So please do join us. And we would like to have as much attendees and takeaways, conversations, discussions. Very auspicious week, the World Holy Name Week. So please do join us. Until then, Vantakapibhyascha, Kripasindhabevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Ki Jai. Chapter 17 is the divisions of faith.
Thank you. I was about to ask you the title. Thank you. Even more powerful. Got to get the class on us. Thank you. Divisions of faith. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, devotees. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.